My girlfriend told me she cheated. Said I needed to be a real man. Then she smirked. My own friends took her side. I didn't argue, I just grabbed my keys and walked out. The next morning, my phone was going off like crazy, 45 missed calls. Looking back, the warning signs were all over the place. They'd been there for months, like little breadcrumbs scattered through the mess our relationship had become. But after 3 years with someone, it's easy to make excuses. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. It started small. Tessa started staying late at work more often. That didn't set off any alarms, it made sense during busy times. But then came the new perfume I didn't recognize, outfits I'd never seen before showing up in our closet, and suddenly, her phone was always glued to her side like it was some kind of sacred object. I've never been the jealous type. That's just not me. But something about it all felt wrong. She'd flinch or pull away when I tried to hug her from behind while she was texting. She'd step outside to take phone calls, saying it was all work stuff. And those constant girls' nights? I didn't even know half the names she mentioned. Then last Tuesday, I was folding laundry when her phone lit up on the coffee table. A message popped up from someone named Derek. It read, "Miss you already. Last night was." And that's all I saw before the preview cut off. But it was enough. My stomach dropped. I didn't want to be that guy who digs through his girlfriend's phone. But in that moment, it felt like the universe was slapping me in the face, telling me to wake the hell up. She came home that night, acting normal. She was in the kitchen making herself a smoothie, like everything was fine. I stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame, just watching her as the blender roared. When she finally turned it off, I asked, "Who's Derek?" Her body tensed right away. Then she did something I wasn't ready for, she smiled. Not a sweet or nervous smile. This one was cold, like she'd just won something. "I was wondering when you'd finally catch on, Ryan," she said, taking a sip from her glass. "Derek's my boss. And yeah, I've been sleeping with him for the past 2 months." She said it like she was telling me what she had for lunch, no shame, no regret. If anything, she looked proud. "I needed a real man," she added, still smirking. "Someone who knows what he wants and actually goes after it. Not someone who wastes his weekends playing video games with Brandon and watching dumb movies." I just stood there, letting her words sink in. 3 years together, and that's how she really saw me? Through the shock, something inside me shifted. I wasn't angry, just clear. "Does Maya know?" I asked, thinking about the friend who had introduced us. "All this time?" "Of course she knew," Tessa laughed. "Most of our friends do. They get it. Derek actually has a future, not just some dreams and excuses." That hit harder than the cheating. These were people we'd celebrated birthdays with, shared dinners, holidays, and they'd all just stood there, watching it happen. Probably laughing behind my back. I pulled out my phone and opened the group chat I had with Brandon and Maya. I typed, "Is this true? You all knew?" Brandon replied almost instantly, "Bro, you're great, but Tessa deserves someone more established. Don't take it personally." Then Maya chimed in, "We didn't want to hurt you. Maybe this is the wake-up call you need." I looked up from my phone. Tessa was watching me, still smirking. She was waiting for the meltdown, for me to yell, cry, lose it, so she'd have some story to share about crazy Ryan. But I didn't give her that. Instead, I smiled. A real one. I walked into our bedroom, grabbed the go bag I always kept packed for weekend trips, picked up my laptop, my keys, and walked back through the kitchen. She was staring at me now, her smirk was fading. "Where are you going?" she demanded. "Out," I said. "And Tessa," I added over my shoulder, "keep the apartment. I'm sure Derek can help with the rent." She started to say something, but I didn't stop to hear it. I closed the door behind me. My phone was already buzzing, probably our friends trying to explain themselves. I turned it off as I pulled out of the driveway and felt something unexpected: relief. Sometimes losing everything shows you what you never had in the first place. I had no clue where I was going, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was headed the right way. Update. First off, thanks for all the support on my last post. I had no idea it would blow up like that. It's been a week, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything. Right now, I'm staying at this small motel just outside town. It's nothing fancy, but it's clean. The owner, Frank, older guy, kind of gruff, actually knocked $30 off the weekly rate when I told him what happened. I turned my phone back on after 2 days and was hit with a storm: 45 missed calls, 53 texts. Most were from Tessa, some from Brandon and Maya, and a few numbers I didn't even recognize. But what really caught my eye were the notifications from social media. Tessa had been busy. Her Instagram story painted a picture that didn't even come close to the truth. According to her, I was this controlling, jealous boyfriend who tracked her every move. She said I emotionally manipulated her, cut her off from her friends, and then threw a violent tantrum when she finally stood up for herself. Each post was full of comments from people I thought were friends, all patting her on the back. The highlight? A video where she cried on camera, claiming I financially abused her by making her split bills 50-50 while I hoarded cash. Never mind that she made more money than I did, and that whole arrangement was her idea in the first place. Then I got a text from Leah, a coworker I've known for years. It read, "Hey, you might want to check your email. Something's going around the office about you." Sure enough, I opened my inbox and found a company-wide message about maintaining a safe workplace. It didn't name names, but the timing wasn't subtle. It was about me. I probably should have been furious. Should have posted my side of the story. But instead, I just felt curious. How far was she really willing to take this? Pretty far, apparently. Yesterday, I stopped by a coffee shop I used to go to all the time. Figured it'd be safe. Tessa always said she hated their coffee. Turns out I was wrong. The barista who used to be super friendly gave me this look like I'd crawled out from under a rock. Later I found out Tessa had started going there, telling anyone who'd listen her survival story. But here's where it gets interesting. While I was picking up some stuff from storage, I ran into Vanessa, Tessa's so-called best friend. She looked nervous, like she was scared someone would see her talking to me. She leaned in and whispered, "You need to be careful. Derek's not just her boss. His wife, she's connected." She wasn't kidding, really connected. And according to Vanessa, Tessa's been telling this woman that I'm unstable. Dangerous, even. "Why are you telling me all this?" I asked, watching Vanessa glance nervously around the room again. "Because this isn't the first time," she whispered. "Before you, there was another guy at work. Tessa and Derek did the same thing to him. He ended up leaving town. That one conversation flipped everything upside down. I stayed up that night, digging into anything I could find, legal records, social media, forums. And sure enough, that guy existed. His name was Ethan something. He pretty much vanished online around the time Tessa started working at the company. Then this morning, my landlord gave me a call. Tessa had tried to remove me from the lease, said I'd abandoned the place. When that didn't fly, she told him I'd been threatening her. The landlord wasn't buying it. Turns out his sister had been through a similar situation, so he decided to give me a heads up. But that wasn't even the wildest part. While all of that was happening, I got a message request on Instagram from an account I didn't recognize. The profile photo was of a woman in her 40s, dressed classy, draped in expensive jewelry. The message read, "We need to talk about my husband and your girlfriend. Coffee tomorrow?" It was signed, Charlotte. I'm actually supposed to meet her in less than an hour. Something tells me Tessa's real man story is about to take a sharp turn. What's weird is, watching Tessa weave all these lies, watching people just take her word for everything, it's almost freeing. Every fake post, every crocodile tear, every twist in her story only reminds me, I'm not losing anything worth holding on to. Update 2. Sorry it took a while to get back here, these last 2 weeks have been insane. That coffee meeting with Charlotte? Total game changer. Turns out she's been quietly collecting evidence for months, not just on Tessa and her husband, but on a whole pattern of shady stuff happening at their company. Remember how Vanessa mentioned the guy who left town? Ethan? He wasn't the first. Charlotte had records of at least 3 other similar cases going back 5 years. Same story every time, young employees getting involved with her husband, then pushing out anyone who might blow the whistle. But this time, Charlotte had enough. She wasn't staying quiet anymore. She had the receipts, texts, emails, expense reports, even security footage from the parking garage. But she needed one last piece to complete the puzzle, a public moment. That's where the company's annual party came in. I wasn't planning to go, why would I? But Charlotte convinced me. Sometimes, she said, the best revenge is just letting people show their true selves. The party was held at a fancy hotel downtown. I showed up late, dressed sharper than I ever had for one of those things. And the looks I got when I walked in? Worth it. Tessa nearly dropped her drink. Derek turned pale like he'd just seen a ghost. But here's the beautiful part, I didn't have to lift a finger. Maya came stumbling over first, clearly tipsy. You've got some nerve showing up here, she slurred, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. After everything you put Tessa through? I just smiled and said, everything I put her through? That's interesting. Go on. Right then, Leah, my coworker, stepped in. She'd been keeping her own receipts. Screenshots of Tessa bragging in company chats. Recordings of her and Derek plotting how to spin the whole thing. Leah raised her voice, actually, I think everyone here deserves to hear the real story. And from there, it was like watching dominoes fall. Charlotte picked her moment perfectly, walking in with a tablet in hand. Suddenly, a projector in the room just happened to start playing a slideshow, text messages, emails, photos, the whole deal. Tessa tried to hold it together, but her desperation was starting to show. And then Brandon, good ol' bros before hoes, Brandon, pulled out his phone. He'd been secretly recording everything, probably to brown-nose Derek later. But instead, he ended up capturing Tessa's full-on meltdown. You think you're so clever, she shouted at me. You and that bitter old woman, trying to ruin everything I've built. Derek loves me. We're going to build a life together. That's when Charlotte smiled and pulled out the kicker, divorce papers. Already filed. Turns out, Derek had been feeding Tessa the same lies he'd used on every other woman before her. Same playbook. Different actress. And through all of it, I barely said a word. I just stood there and watched everything come apart. Then, out of nowhere, Vanessa finally spoke up. She'd been silent all evening. I helped her, she said to the now quiet crowd. I helped her destroy that other guy. I can't do it again. By midnight, the party was over. Tessa stormed out, mascara streaked down her face. Derek was locked away in his office with HR. And the friends, who'd rushed to her side, couldn't even look me in the eye. As I was walking out, Charlotte gently grabbed my arm and said, "Thank you. For being the one who didn't run." I drove back to the motel feeling peaceful, in a way. Frank, the guy who runs the place, was still up watching some late-night TV. He looked at me, grinned, and said, "Good night?" I smiled back. Yeah. You could say that. This morning, my phone lit up again, but this time, the tone was different. Apologies. Explanations. People trying to distance themselves from Tessa's stories. Even got a message from Ethan, the guy who disappeared. He said he'd been following everything through mutual friends. Sometimes karma doesn't need us to fix things. It just needs someone to witness it. Final update. Well, here it is, the last chapter in this whole mess. Buckle up. The fallout from that company party was bigger than anyone expected. Within 72 hours, both Derek and Tessa were asked to resign. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. Remember all those documents Charlotte had been saving? Turns out there was a lot more than anyone realized. She turned over everything, faked expense reports for those business dinners with Tessa, emails plotting against employees, and even manipulated performance reviews. She handed it all over to the board of directors. The company's legal team moved fast. They weren't just dealing with infidelity, they were staring down a massive HR and financial scandal. Both Derek and Tessa are now looking at civil lawsuits. And here's where it gets really good. Ethan came back. Yep, the guy who left town. He returned with receipts. Literal and digital. Turns out he documented every bit of what happened before he left. He just didn't know what to do with it, until now. Charlotte introduced him to her lawyer. 3 days later, Ethan filed his own lawsuit. And then something kind of amazing happened. One by one, former employees started speaking up. Each had their own stories, their own receipts. What started as one scandal snowballed into a full-blown avalanche. Tessa tried to get ahead of it. She posted some teary video claiming she was the real victim, that Derek had manipulated her, and now she was being unfairly attacked. That's when Vanessa finally found her backbone. She posted the screenshots, private chats between her and Tessa. The ones where Tessa bragged about hooking up with Derek, about ruining people's reputations, about how easy it was to play the victim. She even mocked the people she'd hurt. Then last week, Tessa showed up at the motel. Frank, the owner, called me while I was at work. That girl you told me about? She's out in the lot, causing a scene. I didn't rush. Took my time getting back. There she was, sitting on the hood of my car, eyes puffy, mascara running, holding a manila envelope like it was a weapon. I've got dirt on everyone, she said, trying to sound tough even though her voice was shaking. If you don't help me stop this, I'll leak it all. I couldn't help it, I laughed. Go ahead. Burn whatever bridges you've still got. Let's see how far that gets you. She threw the envelope at me. Inside? Photos, screenshots, private messages, stuff she'd been stashing away for years. Her so-called insurance policy. I took photos of every page while she watched. Then I handed the whole thing right back. Do what you want. But maybe look around and see where all your scheming's gotten you. Thing about people like Tessa, they can dish it out, but they fall apart when their own tricks get turned on them. Right there in the lot, she ripped the envelope to shreds, screaming about how we'd all regret this. That meltdown? Someone recorded it. By that evening, it was blowing up on social media. And the final nail? That came yesterday. Charlotte's divorce got finalized, and she walked away with everything. The house, the cars, most of the money. Derek's cushy severance package from the company? Gone. Swallowed up in legal fees. His name? Ruined. Try Googling him now, his career's cooked. As for Tessa? Last I heard, she moved back in with her parents out of state. Radio silent on social media. Those friends who backed her? They're scrambling too. Turns out betting on the wrong person has consequences. Brandon messaged me yesterday, some long apology about how he should have had my back. I replied with a screenshot of the message where he said Tessa deserved better. He blocked me right after. Coward. Maya's doing her own damage control now. She's worried the screenshots Tessa kept might hurt her career. Honestly? I almost feel bad. Almost. Me? I just signed a lease on a new apartment. Got a promotion at work, too. Funny how cutting out toxic people clears the way for good things to happen. And yeah, I've started seeing someone new. We're taking it slow. Doing it right this time. The best revenge isn't scheming or yelling. It's living well, and letting people fall on their own swords. That said, I'm not gonna lie, watching it all collapse from a distance has been incredibly satisfying. This'll be my last update. Thanks for riding along, Reddit. Remember, karma doesn't need your help. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is step back, and let people show everyone exactly who they are.